Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP. And my psychologist did not book the time where I was supposed to come. So I went to the meeting, I was supposed to go to the visit, and I went to the computer and checked myself in, and there wasn't a time booked for me. So I went to the front office and the front desk, and the lady there said, "No, you don't have a book time." And I asked, do I have a book time in the future? Did I take the wrong day? And she was like, "No, you don't have a time." And she tried to come in contact with my psychologist, and my psychologist did not answer his phone and was working from home that day. And it seemed from this receptionist's tone that it wasn't the first time that this happened, and that she was kind of frustrated at my psychologist. It was kind of the vibe that I got. So I can't keep dealing with this. It's like in the past 6 months, he has rebooked a time or unbooked a time like 5 times. I can't keep living like this. I'm sad because he's one of the only psychologists that I can actually talk to, even though he's not the best, but it's fine. But yeah, the psychotherapist who was there was the one who, the counselor, she was the one who started my autism assessment, which that's great. I'm really grateful. But she didn't help me at all during my burnout, and I got really mad at her, so I'm not going to talk to her anymore. I don't want to. And I've gone to most of the private psychologists in this town. There was a 70-year-old man, I've gone to him. Then there's one who's a PTSD expert, but she only takes people with diagnosed PTSD. Then there's one who I've tried to come in contact with for the past 3 years, and every time she seems to put me on a waiting list, and then she seems to take me off the waiting list. So yeah, I'm not coming to anybody. I think that there's a 4th private psychologist in town, so I might go to that person. Otherwise, I'll have to change my healthcare center altogether, and I don't want to do that because it's really hard for me, because I'm a GP doctor, to go to another GP doctor because, I've worked with most of these GP doctors, so I don't want to go to somebody that I've worked with. And at the moment, I happen to have somebody that I haven't worked with, so I want to keep it that way. So yeah, I have a problem, but I'm not going to be fixing it right now. But I am pretty disappointed in my healthcare center for letting my psychologist do this to me. I'm not getting any compensation for that 1 hour of work that I have taken off to go to my psychologist visit. So yeah, I'm pretty pissed off. But we're not going to be talking more about that. We're going to be talking about something kind of interesting, and I don't know if everybody does this or if it's just me. I think that we all do this to a certain extent, but I think that it's much more important in my life as an autistic person, as a person with synesthesia, as a person who's INFP, as just a really sentimental person. I think that I might even have a bit of OCD tendencies or something that might go a little bit into it. My parents are hoarders, but which might be a kind of OCD. But for me, I think that I hoard memories. So it's not, a diagnosis, but I have a lot of nostalgia and a lot of thoughts and feelings concerning different people and different activities and memories that I've had, and this is the way that I've sorted my thoughts for a very long time, since I was a child. I remember trying to explain this to my mom, and my mom was like, I don't think that anybody else thinks this way, Ingrid. So I would associate places with colors when I was small, and I associate people with colors still. Not as much as I used to when I was a kid. Unfortunately, antidepressants kind of deadened my synesthesia forever, which is a shame. But I needed them at the time, so I've made peace with that. But I do see people as having certain colors. I've talked about this before. It was one of my first videos on this channel. But I also associate people with places. And I think that we all kind of do this, but for me, it's a very similar feeling to the synesthesia of me coupling a person with a color. And I get a certain sense of peace and like everything is right in the world when I'm thinking about the person and the place that they're connected to or the color that they're connected to. I feel like this is the way things are supposed to be, and it all feels very nice. And I think that's a little bit of the needing predictability, that kind of comfort from the autism. But it might also be the SI, tertiary SI in INFPs that make us really sentimental and nostalgic, and coupling feelings, FI-SI loop, coupling feelings with, different sensory things, and so the sensory might be a certain color, but it might also be a physical place. And I think that I'm coupling this also to BBC Sherlock's idea of the mind palace. Like, I don't have a mind palace like Sherlock has, where I go and retreat into my mind and I ask the people certain questions, but it's kind of like, if you've seen that show, Sherlock has people in his mind palace that corresponds to different areas of knowledge. So he'll have his brother corresponding to a certain state of mind, and then he has another person corresponding to another, and they will be in the place that they represent, so his brother will be in his brother's office, and Molly Hooper will be in the morgue where she works with, it's the place that she works. And so I feel like that is how I see people in my mind. I'm imagining them. It's kind of dehumanizing for the person, but that's not the point. The point is that everything feels right when the person that I'm thinking about is in the place that they're supposed to represent, So I know that my supervisor, for example, he always sits at the same spot in the lunchroom. So obviously he is associated with that spot where he sits. And everything feels right in the world when he's sitting at that spot. And I have been I have been comforting myself by sitting in his spot. Like, nobody else knows I'm doing this, or I guess that nobody suspects that. But I feel comforted in a way by sitting in that spot, which is really silly and kind of creepy, but it helps, I'm like, oh, I can be in the space of the person, and channel their energy somehow by sitting in this space. And so I associate people I haven't even met with a certain space. So, for example, I associate Schumann with my couch. And it's like, why? Why would you do that, Ingrid? That's a weird thing. That's pretty creepy. Well, I know that I'm always texting Schumann from the couch. And it feels wrong to do it any other place. But I do it in other places too. It's just it feels most right when I'm on the sofa. So yeah, Schumann, if you're watching this, that's where I put you. And yeah, like, I will imagine the person, There's also, I will imagine, but like, so when the person is sitting at that place, it's like, oh, wow, everything is good in the world. And I can get really sentimental about these things. And it hurts me especially when it comes to my ex-INFJ friend, because I'm not going to be seeing him again. For him, sometimes I have several places, where I associate, but one place I associate is in Kungsträdgården in Stockholm, especially when it's blooming, there are all the cherry trees, the cherry blossom trees from Japan that bloom in the center of Stockholm. It's beautiful. It happens like 1 week every year. And I associate that with him because that was the place where we first connected. And he moved several times, but that was always the place that I associated with him, even though we didn't go there that often. And so we would go and get, snacks, which is like Swedish fast food, and we would sit there. And that happened maybe 3 times in all the time that I knew him, but it's always been associated with him. Another thing that's always been associated with him is exploring new parts of the forest, especially when it is about to rain. That certain feeling of being in the forest and being the feeling in the air when it's about to rain it's just him, and I can't get away from it. Even though I'm visiting a completely different forest, I will always associate that with him. So that sucks for me, but like it puts me back in a time. And at the moment, this is the time where we would go to the different forests, and it would be sunny, and then it would be about to rain. And I think that I'm thinking especially about him because it's been like 2 years pretty exactly since he broke up with me. So I'm getting a lot of nostalgic feelings of like, the feeling of being in the forest and it's about to rain. I get that quite a lot. And yeah, that's kind of where I see him. And so, but my best friend, my ISFJ friend, I always imagine in Slussen. And that's weird in a way because Slussen is a place of connections. So it's not a place where he lives. He's never lived in Slussen. I've lived in Södermalm, which is near Slussen. He lived in Nacka, so he would have to take the bus to Slussen, and we would meet in Slussen. And so we would meet up there, but we wouldn't spend any time there because most of the time it has been a whole roadwork construction place for several years. So they only just now opened up a part of Slussen that had been closed for several years, and it's different, and I don't know how to feel because I feel destabilized by the fact that Slussen isn't what it used to look like. I don't know if I like it or if I don't. I kind of think that they could have done a better job, but it's better than how it was before. But yeah, I find that the color scheme that they used is not the color scheme that I would have chosen. For me, Slussen is kind of a wild place, they could have, and instead they used like a light gray, which makes it seem like, a wall. It doesn't look like it's raw part of, Stockholm's cliffs and stuff, I wish that they had gone a little bit more towards the brick colored, which would have gone really well with the rest. I think that they should have made it not flat, but like actually like textured. Something is a little bit off, but we went there together with my best friend, my SFJ friend, and I just felt, things are right in the world again because we can actually stand here together, and he is in the place where he should be, even though he's never been there for a longer period of time. I'm like, this is the place where he belongs, and I felt such a wave of nostalgia, like, wow, all these years, and only now. And there are plenty of other places where I could have associated him with. but I don't even associate it with the place where he stays at now. It's like, this is the place where he should be, you know? Rain or shine, he should always be standing there in my mind. That's kind of what happens. And so, it's ridiculous, but it's such a comforting thing. It's kind of like a stim in a way as well. Like, I kind of like, you know, sometimes will just picture certain things and go to certain places. Sometimes I'll just go to a certain place and be like, to remind myself of certain feelings, regardless if they're coupled to a person or not. When I go to my hometown, I often feel like every road is a certain person, it's a certain memory, it's a certain something. And I can feel my whole history unraveling with myself as I'm walking across the streets, and I'm like there. And you know, it's kind of like I'm Proust, you know, like every single detail of everything is littered and overflowing with history of me, you know. And I think also a part of it is also autism is like, I go always on the same routes every time. And I've talked about this before, but when I go to work, like it feels like my thoughts are always the same when I come to a certain area of the way, I'm thinking about this certain topic, like on automatic almost, you know? And I try to change it sometimes, and you know, these associations can change, but it kind of is these things that ground me in a way. It grounds my attention. It makes me feel like, okay, things can change, but certain things will stay the same in my mind, you know? But I also associate activities with certain places, like I associate reading Johnlock fanfiction with Stockholm Central Station. And I at first, it took me a while to figure out why, but I realized I read a lot of fanfiction while I was during my internship. I didn't do my internship in Stockholm, I did it in the south of Sweden. But the south of Sweden, I had to take the train to go to Stockholm. And it wasn't like I was even reading a lot of fan fiction while I was on the train or in the train station. I just feel like the sense of liminality, the sense of with all of these people, these connections, and a certain sense like I'm going home is the feeling that I get when I'm reading fan fiction. It's like all sorts of things happen and I'm entering a different world with all sorts of people with all sorts of different lives, and I'm entering other people's ideas and other people's lives, but I'm always connecting to this idea of like, I'm coming home, I'm reading about my favorite characters, right? I don't associate reading books with the Central Station, only Johnlock fanfiction, you know? And it's like, and it might also be a little bit of like, oh, London, the buzz of London might be similar to the only place where you can find the buzz in Stockholm is Stockholm Central Station. There isn't any. There isn't much busyness here in Sweden, you know, so that is the most busy place of the entirety of Sweden probably. And so I can feel, just like Sherlock says in the series where he says like he needs to feel the air of breathe London in. And I'm like, oh, I'm breathing Stockholm in, you know, when I'm there. And it's, yeah, I get so emotional about this, you know, because it's like, I associate it so strongly. And I create my own metaphors in my head for different people, you know, like, okay, so my friend is, you know, Slussen is a place of connection. So you've got, it's the place between Nacka and the countryside and the city. And my friend, you know, he grew up in like the countryside in Italy, and but we met in Stockholm, and it's like we're meeting, you know, despite it all, despite everything else that's happening in the world, we are two anonymous people that have gotten to know each other by chance, you know. And I find that so poetic, you know, and I feel that way with my friends, you know. I'm like, oh, I get this sense of connection when I'm thinking about them in these certain, you know, environments that I have created for them, you know, and but so yeah, that's why it's so hard for me to move house. Also, I think that's. I mean, moving is awful and stressful and all that, but it's also because like I associate certain people with certain places, and then I'm like, I don't know who I am myself. Like when I've moved place, I feel like I have to rearrange all the parts of my being, and when people leave, you know, it's also confuses me because like my old supervisor, when she stopped working there, I'm never going to disassociate the office room that she worked in with her. I'll always think that she's there, you know, that she's sitting there, but she isn't sitting there anymore. And it's weird to uncouple her from that place, because I always imagine her sitting there, you know, and it's like, why? You know, as if she's always working like day and night in the weekends as well, you know. But no, that's not how real life works. It just works like that in my imagination, you know. And it helps me keep a connection to certain people, so I do appreciate that. There are certain places where, you know, you've met so many different people that it's like it's hard to connect to a single person. But yeah, I connect certain places with certain ideas as well. So like, there's like a certain street in my town where I used to do dance classes, but it also reminds me of the whole period of time when my mom was pregnant with my brother, because it was that one time where she let me go to my dance class on my own because I was 9 years old, and it was like I wasn't really allowed to walk around in my town on my own because it was pretty dangerous. And so yeah, I must have been 8. I think I was 8. But she said that she couldn't take me to my dance lessons because she was too pregnant. So I could go on that street. That was the first street that I could go on my own. So I associate that kind of freedom with that street. And so it's like everything is connected to everything, and there are so many stories about so many places. It's overwhelming, you know. And so I can couple it up, you know, but sometimes I will get certain feelings and not really understand what they're from. So I might feel my heart skipping a beat, you know, because I'm walking on that street, and then I realize, oh, that street means freedom for me because I did this, and because I did this, because that. Oh, because my mom was pregnant during that time and I walked that street, you know. And you know, that's the way that my brain works. And I think that a lot of people just don't do it to the extent that I do it, you know. Or like, I hope that they're not, because like it's a lot of extra trash for your brain to remember, because my memory is shit in many ways. So like, I'm remembering all this excess information that creates a story, and it's a beautiful imaginative world in there. But like, I understand that other people, you know, it's not useful information in any way, but my mood can be swayed by which streets I walk on. So I think that that's also another reason why I'm pretty rigid in the streets that I choose to walk on, because it's like, if I walk on another street, it might trigger some other memories and go through another whole thing. So I try to explore new streets so that I can like expand my horizons a little bit and create new memories and new stories and all that. But like for me, walking down the street is such an adventure, you know. When I'm depressed, that it doesn't really work that way because like everything is numb. But when I am at my best, I'm actually feeling a lot of things every time I'm just walking down the street. So, I mean, it is a little bit sexist of me, but it is kind of representative of the gender roles of my parents. And they took, you know, kind of seriously, is that I see my dad in the living room and my mom in the bedroom. And it's kind of always been that way. So I don't know really what to think of that. I haven't really associated my brother with anything, but I think that it's also because like he's still growing, so I think that and the fact that I haven't been part of his life for the past, you know, many years, so I don't, you know, the way that I associate him as a kid is not the way that I associate like real life him. So it's hard to know where to place him. I kind of, you know, place him in our common bedroom, but since I'm in the common bedroom as well, like I don't know. But I'm also getting into these kinds of feelings and thoughts because I will be visiting them soon, and so I know that I will shift into that mindset, and I need to kind of keep my sanity, but also, you know, gain whatever, you know, comfort I can get. The thing is, also my dad and my brother are coming to visit now, so they will be outside of their element, so it will be a little bit strange for me that they're visiting me instead of me coming to visit them. Because I'm used to seeing people in a certain way, and then if they're in another context, it's strange. Even when it comes to my dad and my brother, who I love very much. So that's all I had to say for today, but I wonder how you guys see things. I've always associated certain places with colors and stuff, but I didn't realize to what extent I had certain ideas or concepts and people with places, like a concrete map of the world, the map of my emotions, like it's an overlaid on the map of the world, you know, like it's kind of like or it's like, you know, there are those video games where you have the top floor and the bottom floor, like you can go in tunnels and stuff. It's kind of like I can sense that there's something going on underground wherever I'm going, you know. It's kind of like, oh, there's, you know, it is an overlay of the different maps. So I hope that you guys relate to some of this or have some kind of experience that you want to share in the comments. I'd be interested to hear. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.